25 minutes before 11 o'clock. When you're going through the course of your day, whether you're driving a car, walking through the streets of some city or whatever, and you look up at a billboard and maybe it says "Just Do It," or maybe it says live life, or something like that. You might say, okay, they're trying to sell a soda, or they're trying to sell a sneaker, but gosh, that speaks to me, and I think that's a message from God, and I think I'm going to act on that message. Well, you've probably been driving around, and you've probably seen on the back of cars a message that says "Choose Life." If you've lived in our area long enough, you remember that we had a county commissioner by the name of Randy Harris, who was greatly involved in trying to get that license plate made so that we could all have the choice as to whether or not to put that message on our cars. What you may not know, though, is that there was another person involved with that license plate. His name is Russ Amerling. He's in the studio with Jill Amerling, his wife, and they're talking about the new book called Contemplate Life. Let me put a cover of the book on the podcast right now so you can see it. There it is right now. I'm sure you recognize it, and the information that was given to us by Russ a few weeks ago indicates that this whole idea has caught on, and it is being replicated in many other states, not just in the state of Florida, and it's a simple message. Look, if choice is the message, if choice is the word of the day, then what's wrong with choosing life? And yet, when this first came out, I remember this from when it first happened, it was pushed up against by the governor. Do you remember this? It was Lawton Childs. Am I right? Am I remembering the governor? I liked Mr. Childs and I respected Mr. Childs, but at the same time, how could you turn down such an easy to see message? How many babies are probably alive today because the mother was sitting in her car at a light, not knowing what to do, reads those two words and says, you know what, that message is for me. So we have nothing but thanks for Russ Amerling and Jill Amerling and Randy Harris for making this a reality, and I can't wait to hear the story. Let me push the other button and you can see what they look like. They're in the studio right now. Hold on, let me get there. Here we are, right there. There they are sitting. Oh, look, you got the T-shirts on. I guess I didn't even notice that. Russ and Jill, good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Larry. Thank you for having us here.
This is an amazing story.
Well, it's been an amazing ride. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary of involvement with the Choose Life license plate February the 4th.
Tell me the beginning of this idea. Where were you? How do you know Randy?
Well, I think it was a God thing. I had...
Where's Randy right now, by the way? What's he doing?
He's up in Suwannee County. He's the county administrator up there. Works about 60 hours a week, runs himself ragged, just like he did down here. But and I get frustrated with him because I need him to do stuff for the book, and he doesn't do it fast enough for me. So. But Randy's always got 14 hands in the...
So did you know him? Did you come up with the idea together? Did you come up with the idea?
No, Randy believes God gave him a vision of that, and it's in the book.
Okay, so Randy had the idea first.
He had the idea first, and I was at a Roe v. Wade rally with John Mays. You may remember that name, Homes by John Mays.
Okay.
He's going to be with the Lord, but anyhow, we were at a rally here on the square, and John introduced me to Randy, who was a new county commissioner at the time, and they were just talking, and Randy told John, I've got a good idea. They dialogued about it, and I was standing back just listening. I had just retired as a tax collector from the Internal Revenue Service. I was the office manager here, and I thought I knew everything, and I was a bureaucrat, and Randy came up with this idea, and I said, they're not going to let you do that. Kind of arrogant, probably. And Randy just looked at me.
Yeah, but you were right.
Well, I thought. But anyhow, I looked at Randy, he winked at me, and he said, I think there's the people in Tallahassee, I think we have the people in Tallahassee that can get it done. And that was the beginning of it, February.
You believed in the message, but you didn't think the government would allow it to happen.
No. Matter of fact, God had been pressuring me, prompting me in the area of life. I'm an ordained minister for singles, single young adults. And he'd been prompting me for years and years to get involved in the pro-life movement, and I was afraid to. because I was a bureaucrat and I was afraid I'd lose my job.
Oh, really? Oh, my
So,
gosh. So there's that much pressure even back then, huh?
yeah.
What I don't understand, though, and I guess this is the argument you hear all the time, is why when you have a group of people who are okay with abortion, and their message is the right to choice, the right to choose, whatever they say. Mm-hmm. Okay. So choose life. What's wrong with your response to that?
Well, that was Randy Harris's response in one of the dialogues that took place during this effort to get the play. He said, "Which of those words on there don't you like?"
Oh, that's great.
So, but Randy is good at that. But that's true. I mean, my view, and I'm somewhat cynical, is that every time a woman chooses life, an abortion doctor loses $400.
Yeah, at least probably.
Yeah. In the beginning of the book, it talks about a young lady who actually had a pamphlet. She walked into one of the clinics, and she was told she couldn't read it in the office there. Isn't that absurd?
Mississippi.
And then she sits down and reads it and makes the decision to go on and have her baby. It sounds like she didn't have confidence in herself, or you might say faith in God, to be able to raise the baby because her money was not so good, right? But as soon as she announced that she was pregnant and going to have a baby, people started coming forward with cribs, and God was working through people.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've seen that.
That's what I wish everybody would see. I think that's the reason we're here, is to learn how to have faith in God. I really do. And what's the biggest thing you have to have faith in but to raise a child?
Yeah. That's interesting that you should bring that up, because this week the House and Senate in Michigan passed the Choose Life license plate bill to Governor Snyder. We are in the process of calling him and telling him that we're praying for him to make the decision to sign that bill. We've been trying for 10 years to get a Choose Life license plate approved in Michigan. And he's indicated a reluctance to do this, but he hasn't made a decision yet. It'll be on his desk this week or early next week.
And you have stories from the different people from the different states, because this movement did not just start and end with Florida. I mean, you've got the majority of the states now that have Choose Life.
Right. We have 32 states that have the Choose Life license plate approved, and the District of Columbia, and they have raised $24 million that goes to pregnancy centers, maternity homes, and nonprofit adoption agencies.
That's awesome. See, that's the part of this that everybody needs to know, that there is help, and the money from these plates actually goes to help do something positive.
Positive. That's right.
What was the rest of the story? Randy met you on the town square. How was your role in this? How did the two of you become a team?
Yeah, there's a lengthy backstory, but I'll really foreshorten it. As I said, God had been prompting me to get involved in this, and I had retired the previous year, and so I had no excuse anymore. I didn't have to worry about losing my pension.
Yeah, right.
My job, because I had already retired, and so I had gone to a men's retreat, and in that men's retreat, I just was convinced that God wanted me to do something. I had no idea what it was. Mm-hmm. And I told my pastor, who was there also, that I'm going to resign from everything I'm doing at church and just pray for 3 months. And if there's something out there that you want me to do, you need to show me. And that was about the 11th of November. And I met Randy in January. And when I heard what he was going to do and thought about it, I just told Jill, I said, I think this is it.
See, you and Randy and your wife, you can look out this window, and you can see somebody young, like that young man right there, walking past, because enough time has passed since you did this. Easily, that could be the life that you saved right there.
Exactly right.
That's what it's all about. Randy Harris, during the whole time he was working on this, he kept saying, just one. If we can save just one child, it'll be worth all of this effort. Sure. And Governor Bush learned about this, and when he came down to campaign, he had a just one Choose Life.
Thank God for Governor Bush.
Made.
What was so? What's in the book?
Well, the book is divided into 3 parts.
Uh-huh.
The first part 1, is my backstory, how God worked in my life to bring me to the time that I met Randy, that I was ready to get involved in this. And of course, Randy has his backstory in there. And then once we met, we talk about how I took the idea down through the grassroots and Randy took it to the legislature. So that's part one. Part two then moves to...
It wouldn't
when
have happened
exploded.
without him doing that.
When Governor Childs vetoed the plate the first year we got it approved, that night I went on MSNBC News Online, and the state representative that was carrying the bill was holding a replica plate up to the camera, and the caption on MSNBC News Online said, "Florida governor vetoes anti-abortion license plate."
Oh.
I was devastated. But within 6 months, we were talking to groups and individuals in 35 states that wanted to know what we were doing, how we were doing it, and would we help them do it. And that's when it sort of...
Is it ironic to you that when you listen to the news today, where everybody's telling us to believe in science, that they don't want to grasp the science, that life begins at conception?
Yes.
Doesn't that boggle your mind?
Well, it doesn't boggle my mind because God always brings out His truth, and I believe that's what that is.
Oh, I love that, yeah.
That it's, you just figure out what it is that He wants you to do, you get involved, bloom where you're planted, and then sit back and watch what He does.
The fear that the other side of this has, the fear that they have is that laws are going to be changed to make abortion illegal. That has never been the agenda of Randy Harris, as far as I know, and it's never been the agenda of the Choose Life license plate.
It is not. We are pro-adoption. That's what this license plate's all about.
Absolutely.
It's been that way from the very beginning. I had many media contacting us through the various process. I kind of became the national publicity coordinator for the Choose Life license plate idea. And when they would call me about some issue on pro-life versus pro-choice, and I would always tell them that I'm pro-adoption. And they said, "But you must be either pro-life or pro-choice." And I said, "Well, I'm pro-adoption." And if they continued to pester me, I'd say, "Well, obviously I have to be pro-life. You can't adopt an aborted baby."
Yeah.
So that's sort of...
You can't adopt an aborted baby.
End of it. But the idea of the just one, of course, there's a story in there also. That lady that wasn't allowed to read the document there. I got a chance to meet her and hold that baby in my arms in Mississippi. We happened to be visiting that pregnancy center the very day that she came back to thank that lady for giving her the pamphlet.
Using her story just as a way to kind of illustrate what the good that you do with this one simple idea. That young man that I pointed to, he's going to represent all the babies that you've saved. But if there was another woman behind him that was his mother, let's say, you've also blessed her, because something she thought was going to be a burden, something she thought was going to weigh her down and ruin her life, gave her one of the biggest blessings of her life. So you're helping two people, or three if there's a daddy in the picture, which we would like to see every time. But I mean, you're really helping out people to be happier and to be blessed.
Well, that's that is the goal. But recently, in a dialogue with a friend of mine, I realized more fully that it's not just that child; it's the progeny of that child.
Yeah.
So when someone chooses to
that's a good
end
point. Yeah.
the life of the
That's
unborn
right. Yeah.
baby,
Yeah.
they're killing a line.
It might not be Einstein, but it might be Einstein's grandfather.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Martin Luther King Jr.'s grandfather. Yeah. Oh, wow. Good point.
And that's what we have to think about. There's a Jewish slogan. I don't fully understand it, but it's that if you save a life, you save the world.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to research that on Google and still didn't get a very good answer, but that's a Jewish slogan. And so, or Jewish saying, I guess, is a better way to put it. But when you think about that, then you save a life, you save the world.
And the people on the other side that want abortion, some of them do it out of convenience, others do it just because they don't want to have the burden, but they just don't understand that they might not be here, that they wouldn't be here today if their mom decided to abort them. So I don't understand how they can be so vehement and forceful about this, about about telling people that murder is a good thing by having an abortion when they're living and breathing here on this planet because their mother did not choose to murder their child.
Precisely, that's true. But there are a ton of pressures on women in today's society, and this is just another one.
Yeah.
And they're being sold a lie. They're being convinced that that aborting this child can make all of their problems go away, but it just brings you a whole new load of other problems.
Well, sure it does.
As most things, when we do things wrong, I've been told Satan lets you charge things. God makes you pay cash. And
So you know what I've been told? It's because I do a radio show. I've been told I don't have a dog in this fight because I'm a man. I've been told
I don't like that.
unless you can give birth to a baby, you don't have a dog in this fight. And this is what I said in response. I said, well, I can guarantee you that I would never father a child that would ever be aborted. And the response was, you can't promise yourself that. And I said, yes, I can. Because I know not to have sex with somebody that's going to abort that child.
Yeah.
I mean, why? I mean, there are some rules that have been set up, not because God wants to be a bully, but because he wants us to be happy.
Yeah.
And if we just follow those rules, just hold off. Come on. I mean, you don't have to have sex. You know, nobody wants to say that, you know.
Exactly.
But that's the truth.
It is.
When you were a younger man, you knew.
Of course.
You knew how to behave.
Yeah. But that's another lie they've been sold. And I feel so sorry for them.
Yeah.
And it really is bad on society's part, because when I was growing up, I graduated in 1972. In the early, in 1972, two of my girlfriends were pregnant. All of a sudden, they disappeared, and you didn't see them for months. And then they came back, and they went back to school and everything. Well, back then, people would help you. You would go away, you would have this baby, and then the baby would be placed up for adoption. But now the women are just, they don't want to do that. They don't want to take the 9 months and then give the baby up because they're so selfish, because they're afraid people are going to say to them, oh, how could you give up your baby? So instead, they'd rather just get rid of the baby. And there are so many men out there that want to be fathers, and if they knew that their girlfriend or wife had this abortion, they would be absolutely devastated, because they should have just had the baby, given it to the dad, and then gone off on their merry way.
It's my child, You can't kill a child.
Yeah.
The what?
It's my child. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the very beginning of the book, if I could just read the part about the young lady in Mississippi, she goes back to work, and her name is Rosetta, and somebody says, Rosetta, you look so happy today, and definitely much better than last week. This is after she's found the little pamphlet and said to herself, okay, I'm going to have the baby. And she responds, she says, yes, ma'am, I am very happy. Yesterday, I was about to commit a terrible act. I was going to abort my baby. I had not even told anyone I was pregnant. When she explained the episode from the previous day at the abortion clinic, the lady was deeply moved. And then she goes on to tell her how happy she is for her. That joy that she felt when she finally accepted, okay, I'm going to be a mom again.
Yeah.
And she was a mom already. She already gave birth, right?
Yes.
She had one or two children
Two
prior to
children.
this one, right?
2 children.
2? So, oh my gosh. I mean, that just, the message is simple. Choose life. You're sitting at a traffic light. How many people are saved because of those 2 words?
Well, the question you asked me about the book, the last third of the book is filled with stories of birth moms who have chosen to give their child life, either make adoption plan or to parent them. And there are many stories that we have on our website indicating women that have actually done what you just proposed. They were sitting in a car and saw a Choose Life plate in front of them. One of the stories towards the end of part 3 is about a woman that was in a pregnancy center and talking to them, and she got up and left because she felt she couldn't hear that. She was abortion-minded. She was pro-life, but she was abortion-minded because of her life circumstances. And she left, got in the car, and was praying and asking God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And she came to a stoplight, and there was a Choose Life license plate on the car in front of her. And she called the center back the next day and went back in and told them that it was that plate
Wow.
She saw that as God just answered her question.
What was the bigger challenge, getting the license plate or getting the book published?
Well, since Randy did most of the work on getting the license plate approved, I'll have to say that was probably
It seemed like it was big. I can remember watching some national broadcast, and Randy was the guest. I guess he went to Channel 2 or something to be on the national stage, and I could not believe that he was having to explain it. It didn't make any. What he has to in Marion County we have a unique perspective because this is where it started.
Right.
For those of you who live here, this is our audience. You got to check out the backstory of the book. You got to find out the after story of the book. The last third of it.
And when you go to the DMV to buy the Choose Life plate, it's not that much more than if you just would buy a generic plate. But yet the extra money supports so much.
It's once you switch to the Choose Life plate, it is $25 a year above the normal cost of your plate, generic plate. Florida keeps $5 of that, and $20 comes back to Choose Life Inc. We get about $440,000 a year, which we give out to pregnancy centers, maternity homes, and nonprofit adoption agencies here in Florida. And the money is even tagged to the county. All the plates sold in Marion County, that $20 comes back to Marion County and goes to help agencies here.
And that's like 50 cents a week. I mean, gosh, for that 25.
And also, we have a campaign going on right now. It costs about $60 above the first time you switch. There's a new tag fee and various other fees and such. So we are giving a $50 rebate to anybody that switches to the Choose Life license.
Oh, really?
All they need to do is send me a copy of their registration that they get when they get the car, and we will send them a check.
I would
for
rather it go
$50.
to the agency, though, that you're helping.
Some
Yeah.
people do that, but as an incentive and to help people that maybe that $65 is a big burden for them on top of their regular license plate fee.
Right.
That's a campaign that we're doing now to try and urge people and encourage and help people switch to the plate. We do that if they'll agree to keep it on their car for at least 5 years.
I have a copy of the book. Russ brought us a copy. I'd like to give it away. It's called Contemplate Life. Call me if you want the one that Russ gave us. I wanted to tell you this. It's also on Amazon. Do you have any other ways how do you tell people to get the book?
It's on Amazon for $14.95. They price the stuff on there, but we also have it on our website, choose-life.org, choose-life.org,
Okay.
the product store for $10.
You're really doing a great service with this because, like you had to go out and you had to get all of the stories from real people. They're not made up, and they are just so passionate, and they're all grateful to know that they actually chose life instead of murdered their child.
I overnighted a copy of the book to Governor Snyder in Michigan yesterday, and I asked him to read the one story in there, The Weight of the World on Her Shoulders. It speaks so much to what the plate's all about.
Well, I want to help you. I'm looking at the map right now, and I'm disappointed in New York. I'm from New York. No group is working right now.
What?
Well, that's not quite right.
That's not quite right?
The coloring says there's no group working because we worked for 10 years, fought the Alliance Defense Fund, carried a lawsuit against New York, and last June, the United States Supreme Court did a flip-flop. The language on a specialty plate used to be called free speech. Because of a case in Texas, the Sons of Confederate Veterans trying to get a plate approved in Texas with a Confederate battle flag on there. That case went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court flip-flopped and said now that the language on a specialty plate is state speech. So when that happened, we lost our suit in New York that had been going on for 10 years.
I love what you're doing, and I know a lot of other New Yorkers love what you're doing, so don't let the red fool you.
Well, we haven't stopped. We've got another plan. We've got a plan B.
Russ, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you have done. Jill, thank you for what you've done. Randy, if you're listening, thank you for what you've done. We miss you, by the way. Thank you all. We'll be right back.
This is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Former FBI Director James Comey under oath before the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Although the law required no reason at all to fire an FBI director, the administration then chose to defame me and, more importantly, the FBI by